Yo, how's it going, guys? So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down how we scaled a coaching offer to over $180,000, okay? And we actually did this in a period of just a few months, which has been pretty cool, right? So I'm going to walk you through exactly what we did to be able to achieve that. Yeah, if you're trying right now to scale your own coaching offer or grow it, get more clients, or if you work with coaches and you're also looking to drive more sales for them, okay? Now, I know for all you skeptics, right, you probably want to see some, well, at least as much proof as you can, right? Of course, with clients, it's a little bit more difficult. You cannot just show everything. But what I can do is I can show you our two biggest payment processes, which is PayPal and Stripe, right? Which is where we take almost 90% of our payments. And then the rest came through like wire transfer. So we'll start with pretty much PayPal. If you look for the period of the 1st of August to the 31st of August, yeah, you'll pretty much see we collected about $74,000 from this payment processor. And then on a Stripe for the exact same period, 1st of August to the 31st of August, you'll see we collected about 372,000 dirhams, which comes out to about 100,000 US dollars, right? And that was pretty much 90% collected of these payment processes, and the rest came through wire. But I mean, that's pretty much majority. So if you're still skeptic after that, then you don't need to watch the rest. Okay, cool. So let's get into it, right? So quick overview of who I am. So my name is Leruo Theledi, and I've helped multiple coaches and consultants scale to 6- and 7-figure months. I've worked with some bigger names in the business space, such as Ty Lopez. And I'm not a coach by myself, but I run the systems behind a lot of these coaching businesses. And yeah, I've worked with and consulted a lot of different clients over the years. Okay, so let's talk about exactly what actually happened in this business and how things came about, because yeah, essentially this business started at $7,000 per month, right? 7,025 to be exact. That was like the peak levels of where the business was at. I mean, there were some times where it was a little bit higher, but on average, this was actually the upper average of where the business kind of sat, right? So a few $1,000s per month, coaching offers existing. Yeah. So she's a business coach. She has great offers, a couple of premium ones. She was making some sales, which is also great. And yeah, primarily through organic, right? Which is usually what I see a lot of coaches getting started with. They usually focus on organic content first, and yeah, primarily just focus on that. Although with organic, it can be a little bit unpredictable and you don't get that consistency that you actually want. So some months were better, some months were quiet. When she had more clients coming to her, it was amazing. Less clients would also happen. So it was a little bit unpredictable. And of course, ultimately she wanted to scale, right? Now she didn't want to do it in the way that most people just say, go out there and scale, right? And we're going to get into that in a few more details. But what we essentially did was we covered three main parts, or we took three main key steps to actually go out there and help her grow this business and kind of get out of that situation that she was in, right? So we built a low ticket attraction offer, then we scaled it with ads, and then we monetized the back end. So we're going to go through this step by step. So it's, yeah, clear and simple and everything makes sense, okay? So let's start off with building an attraction offer, right? So what is the normal way of scaling and why did she not want to do this, okay? So this is usually what a lot of people say: sell more one-to-one coachings or switch to a group coaching model, right? And pile more and more people into this program, right? And of course, ultimately, the problem with this is operationally it becomes more difficult, especially if you're the only one who's delivering the coaching, which is even worse, because that means that literally every single hour you are actually trading to fulfill clients, okay? And then with group programs, it also works at scale. I know people crushing it with, right? But most people at this level are usually getting stuck by having a lot of clients to actually go out there and coach, meaning they need better systems, right? And so basically that was basically the situation, what her options really were if she wanted to do more. And then ultimately, maybe figure out a way to run ads or something like this, right? So ideally, she didn't want the entire business to just balance on these group coachings or one-to-one coaching. She actually wanted to have a little bit more of course, she still loved to deliver great work for her clients, but she wanted to have a little bit more leeway and a little bit more passivity in the business. And so this was a major goal for her, because she's actually a female coach. She's a busy mom, and so she had a few things which she wanted to actually optimize so she could actually get more of her time back. Okay, so we went a little bit of a different way, right? And we built what we call in the first step that I showed you a low ticket attraction offer. Okay, so here's essentially what that means, right? We looked at our audience and found their highest value micro problems. So out of her customers that she was serving through these business transformations, we would actually figure out what are the smaller problems that they encounter along the journey of going through that whole transformation, but ideally which one has like the highest levels of pain, right? So of course, like with any program, you're going to have a step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, and it takes a while to achieve any transformation, right? Even if you're a health coach or relationship coach, right? It takes a while. So, but there are a lot of like micro milestones and micro steps that you want to ideally get people across throughout that journey. And essentially we were trying to figure out what the highest value pain was, right? A problem that's painful, specific and solvable very quickly. That's also really, really important, by the way, is that it needs to be able to be solved quite fast, okay? So we built an offer around exactly that and nothing else, okay? That is essentially an attraction offer, something that's compelling enough because it's got such a high level of pain, but also small and simple that we could package it into a low-priced product, right? That's really, really, really important, okay? So the actual offer was really simple. It was like literally a few videos and templates, and the whole outcome of that product allowed them to get a win within just one day, right? So it didn't take crazy amounts of time for them to get a result, and that's really, really important, right? It was simple. It was not a crazy school community. It was not a 40 module course, because a lot of people do that. They launch these school communities and then they have a very hard time getting the right people that actually buy then their higher priced or their full transformations. That was basically, we did not do a school community or a 40 module course, just so you can kind of keep that in mind, right? A good product that got someone to win really, really quickly, right? And by the way, the faster that they can get this win, the simpler the product, the faster that they actually then go on and buy your next products. That's really important. And most importantly, your premium products, okay? Now, let's go into step 2 where we go into a little bit of more detail into scaling with ads, right? So we had this offer, and now we built an ad system around it, right? And of course, it's an attraction offer, so it was much more powerful in converting people who had no idea who we were, right? So you essentially take that risk of not having to front a ton of money on ads for, like, I don't know, your high ticket coaching offers, not knowing if you're even going to get the money back, or if you drive directly to a webinar, you don't sometimes know if you're going to get that exact amount of money back, right? So this was a great way to a little bit like hedge that risk, right? And yeah, it was super powerful and allowed it to help us out, okay? And that's exactly why ads work so good. We did those basics really well on the offer, making sure it was a proper problem that people actually had. We came in with the right price, and it got people a great win, right? And that's when the ads become a lot more simple, right? We're actually able to actually scale with about 1.58 of our money back on just the low ticket attraction offer, right? So essentially we're spending about $81,000 on ads, and we made about 1.58 of our money back immediately, right? In return, okay? So that's really, really important without necessarily yet delivering the high ticket programs yet, right? So that's really, really important, because if you remember what I said from the very beginning is that she wanted to build a business that didn't necessarily rely on the high ticket coaching or necessarily rely on her needing to like deliver one-to-one sessions, right? So when you have this well-structured attraction offer, low ticket offer that actually converts cold, because there's a difference between random low ticket offers that people tell you to do school communities, right? That doesn't actually get people, then one, it's not even profitable enough on just the front end, right? And two, it doesn't even bring in the right people to buy like your products on the back. So in this case, we were actually able to scale with a 1.58, and maybe for those of people who are much deep in advertising, when you get above $2,000, $3,000 per day on ads, usually that's when it becomes so much more expensive. So having the right structure is something that we absolutely nailed with her, and that's why we were able to actually scale the 1.58 front end on ads before we even started to monetize the back, right? Because that's just on new customers and the ads paying for itself, right? Now it's about where the big profit actually lies, right? And that's in step 3, which is all about monetizing all these customers we now have in our business that came in a little bit more of a passive way, right? But are ultimately still wanting our group programs, our high ticket products, right? And so this is where it becomes fun, because now every extra dollar isn't a cost to chase, right? It's just profit that you are now generating from the customers you already have, okay? And what we did was we had a high ticket offers there. We did some nice email marketing, retargeting, and she would run webinars, right? She wouldn't even do the webinars on a weekly basis. Actually, she would run the webinars sometimes once a month, sometimes every 2 weeks, right? To basically make that extra 10, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 to actually then get our ROAS above 3x in total, right? And so that's pretty much what we actually did and how this actually ended up in her situation, right? So the business didn't rely on those things, right? And so we did the back end selling, and she actually was optimizing her fulfillment and her coaching, her group coaching programs for the best of the best clients, because they're the people who've bought from us and who've already consumed with us. So therefore, they are much more likely to actually enjoy you and work with you in a much happier way, rather than clients who just like expect you to deliver stuff, which is like, most coaches will understand this, okay? So here's a quick recap of what we do. So we put together an attraction offer that pulled in the proven buyers. We had ads that paid for themselves, so scaling wasn't a gamble, and a back end that turned those buyers into premium clients. And that's exactly how we went out there and scaled the business. So how do you go out there and grow your business too in this exact same way? Through low ticket ascension offers, setting up a low ticket offer. Well, the first thing I'll say is subscribe to this channel, because I share more on this and what I'm doing to grow different coaches online with paid ads, helping them scale with these scalable funnels. So you can just drop a subscribe and you'll get more of that. And second, we have some resources down below that will basically help you to get started with scaling your own funnel, right? And that's either low ticket ascension funnel and webinars, because webinars are super powerful. And actually sometimes if you combine the two, they can be even better, right? So check out some of the resources down below, and you can actually start using that, whether you're a coach or you help coaches also to grow their businesses. Okay, awesome. With that said, I hope this video breaks down pretty much the most important things that we actually did to be able to go out there and achieve that. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one.